Hello, I am Shelley and I'm here today with the beautiful Kim Holl, who I am really proud to say is my friend here on Vancouver Island. Kim is someone that I met about a year ago. We went on an iWist steam crawl all around technology businesses in Victoria, BC, and we sat together on the bus. And just a beautiful soul who had sparkly eyes. And when I was asking her about herself, she just lit up, which totally magnetized me to Kim. And it's been such a blessing to have you in my life over the last year, both in person and digitally. So hello, hi, welcome.
Thank you, and lovely to be here. And I echo the sense of riding that bus with you as well. I knew from, every time we'd exit the bus and hop back on again, we looked for each other because we had to continue our stories. So yeah, it was a good experience. And here we are.
Here we are. One of the things that I'm really interested in is how technology can help us to reconnect our communities. And it was really interesting to speak to you because I was talking you through my thesis ideas and what I was really interested in. And you had so much to share on this. So I won't give too much away. I'm going to let you tell your story about how digital community has really helped you, particularly through the pandemic.
Yeah, so my digital group started actually even before the lockdown of the pandemic. It was kind of like February of 2020 that this random group of filmmakers from Europe came together. We didn't know each other before, even though we had all studied this particular film method with the same teacher. There was one fellow from France, two from England, a woman from Scotland, and me from Canada. And we have been meeting faithfully every single Friday morning at 8:30 Pacific. And we rarely miss a beat. And it started off as one of the fellows is a professor at a university in England, and he was doing this participatory research project using this film method, which is all about the art of witnessing. And he wanted to see how it might be able to help his grad students. And he was thinking about a project in mind. And that kind of fizzled out for a multitude of reasons. However, we said, well, should we still keep talking? And we haven't stopped. And that is, we are now going on to our 4th year. And it started off kind of more professional based, like, well, let's meet up, let's talk about our art. We talked about filming and editing and the process and how we do things, and we arrived with an agenda. Within a few weeks, it slowly migrated to we just show up. And there's this period of silence where we are just looking at each other from across the pond, in different continents, and that we settle into this silence and just looking at these people who we have grown to love over the years. And there is this sense of kinship, sense of family, even sometimes more connected than my own family. And we have been through thick and thin with each other. We've been through heartaches and COVID and ups and downs, and we have been there as each other's support system. And I love these guys, and one day we are planning to meet in person. But yeah, it is such a rich experience. And I know that not every group is like that, because I'm with some other digital groups and it's like they all have their purpose. But this one is soulful, and we are curious. We show up with just deep curiosity and compassion for each other. And sometimes we do our check-in and we might just be with someone that's going through a difficult time. and we might be there just to support them or brainstorm with them, you know, untangle a hairball project someone's working on. But it's a lot of fun.
Wow. And something you just said there about being with that person, like, this is incredible. Like, you haven't met these people in the flesh, yet you feel like you can rely on one another. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yes. And I think it might have something to do with the film technique that we use in the art of witnessing, because I think we've brought that into how we are with each other. Whereas there is honoring the sense of being in place and with one another. You know, we're not busy talking to fill the space, and we allow great swaths of silence. Because often, you know, you might ask someone a question and they're thinking, and if there's too much silence, you go on to the next question. But it might take someone, you know, a bit of time before their answer comes forth. So it's really allowing that space, kind of like a gentle ride to nowhere.
And do you have a group like this in your physical realm, as rich and as supportive?
No. And I wish I did. I think I did at one point in my life many years ago when my kids were young. I had a women's circle and we met every Wednesday faithfully. And it went on for about 3 years. And then we just kind of, it fizzled and failed. It's like sometimes there's a time and a season for everything. And it was beautiful while it lasted. And then since then, I've done lots of traveling, and I lived in the States for 15 years and back on the island now. And my friends and colleagues are kind of scattered all over the world. And so being able to connect with people digitally is so valuable for me.
And I wonder, I'm curious about, you said that you will meet at some stage. I'm so curious to follow this journey with you. I mean, we are friends, we are going to stay in touch, and to see how that potentially changes the dynamic of your weekly gatherings.
Yes, absolutely. It might even be this summer.
Ooh, nice. So let's talk about our connection. So when we first met on that day on the bus, and I spoke about I'd been to visit our eco village, and you had recently done some filming with Brandy there. So we had that kind of instant, oh, maybe we were meant to meet today, because we had that commonality. And then I invited you to come and join a circle at our eco village. We had a beautiful session where I brought together some of the amazing humans who I've met during my time in Canada. So we had my mentor, Bill, we had my professor, Patrick, yourself, Claire, who was the chair of IWIST at that time, and Brandy at our eco village. There were 6 of us. And how was that experience for you? So that was our physical gathering.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk about what's happened for you since then as well, because I know there's been a few things happened since then.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It was, I love these events when they happen. You know, it's like right away, you know that you're supposed to be there. It's like right away, I knew that you and I were going to connect. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. And so I was really looking forward to, you know, the gathering at the Eco Village, and it just felt like I was with my people. Mm-hmm. And just the conversations that flowed around the circle were just so inspiring. And I just wanted to be a part of it, and continued. And then I also had a wonderful connection with Patrick, and I have since done some amazing film projects with him. And, you know, again, it's like people show up when you are ready, you know, and it's like we kind of align ourselves. It's like we have this agreement from the past, and you recognize that, yes, we're on this journey together. We're here to support each other and do some really beautiful work together. And it always feels effortless when it falls into your lap like that.
And I think we'd penciled in about an hour and a half for that, and we all stayed for about 3 or 4 hours. None of us wanting it to end. It got very dark, and Patrick was on his bike, wasn't he?
Yes, and I had to layer him up with layers of clothing because he didn't come prepared.
Oh, beautiful. Where is this conversation wanting to take us? When I came to visit you in Nanaimo, you hadn't been there for very long. And I think the house was just organized, and you were just about to start putting yourself out there locally. And I know since then you've made some friends, you've attended some events. So I'd love to hear how this experience has gone for you. So a lot of my listeners will be expats, digital nomads, traveling around and really trying to find their people where they are. So would love to hear how you found that transition.
Yeah, it has been effortless. And I wasn't quite expecting that, because I really was not familiar with this part of the island, because, you know, I'm used to, you know, Victoria, North Saanich was my home. And it has been really easy. And again, what I have found is people have been reaching out to me saying, oh, you're in Nanaimo now, you have to contact so-and-so. They're, you know, I know you two will hit it off. And so that's what's happened. It hasn't really been me reaching out. It has been others reaching out to me. And because of that, I've really been involved, and I'm working with a nonprofit up in Parksville and doing a really cool film project up there. Again, because of one of these, you know, serendipitous meetups. And yeah, it's been really nice. It's been graceful.
Oh, that sounds nice. It sounds like you found your place.
I really have. And it's like when I imagined where I wanted to be, I had these certain criteria of what I was dreaming of. And it hit all the marks. And I just thought, and it's like I knew that we had found the right house the moment we pulled up into the driveway. And so I really listened to those, you know, that body language. My body found the house.
Beautiful. And something I would love to touch on, you've traveled a lot, you've lived in the States, and I would love, because you're someone who has you found your purpose, you found what makes your heart sing. I would love to know, through your travels, if there were particular people that you've met along the way who've kind of given you clues, like the universe giving you a wink along the way, that has really helped you to figure out what that thing is for you that's totally authentic to Kim.
Yeah, I think it goes way back to my childhood. And I think growing up, my dad, he was the instigator of opening up to curiosity and wonder and asking questions. And if you're not happy with the answer, go up the chain of commands and the ladder to someone who can answer your question the way you want to receive it. And he taught us about, he was an atheist. My mom was Irish Catholic, but more of a mystic at heart. But it was my dad who taught us about all religions and all philosophies. And so as I traveled the world, and I lived in the Middle East as well, in Israel and Lebanon, and the States, I found myself going into all the places of worships and just traveling with an open mind and an open heart. And I realized, not at the time, but I realized in hindsight that I was actually following my father's path and his journey as a young man. And in a way to find out who he was, because we never really got to know him fully as, you know, as a younger man. And so I've always had this sense of curiosity from the time I was young. And I felt that I chased my curiosity and passionate interests more than forging a specific career. And so that was the element. I never had a travel plan. I just followed my heart. And so I mindfully moved to the beat of my own drum. And when I discovered someone doing something that I loved, that was maybe radical and creative, I found a way to join them, and I learned their craft. And so that brought me to work with some like incredible teachers and artists, facilitators, filmmakers. And so in a way, I kind of transformed my curiosity into my own career. And, you know, at first it felt like I was always floundering, you know, like I was always onto something different, and I was always changing and moving. And at the time, people would look at that as maybe as a deficit. And so then I felt like, oh, you know, it will eventually take me somewhere, I'm sure. But now looking back, I realized that that was a real gift, being able to really trust my intuition that brought me to this place in time. Because without all of those journeys, and without all of those stories, and without working with those most incredible people, I wouldn't have been so rich inside as I feel like I am right now. That it has been, the journey has been such a gift. So it's kind of like been from the sense of wonderness that will bring the courage and tools we need to also mend the earth, mend ourselves, and mend each other.
Beautiful. And how liberating to have felt like you had the freedom to live that journey. And I say felt that you had the freedom because many of us have the freedom, yet we make choices in our life that don't allow us to live that freedom. So I really hope that is an inspiring message to some people to say, you know, you can follow your curiosity and passion if only you allow yourself to.
Yes. And you know, thinking back as well, you know, I was a single mom raising 3 sons. I didn't always feel I had the freedom. And so there's this interesting juxtaposition between, well, what is freedom? So it was like part of that, being a single mom and raising 3 boys, I had certain things that I could do and certain things that I couldn't do, but I always made the best with the little time and the little money I had to carve out a very rich creative life, even if it meant staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning, writing when the kids were asleep, because that's the only time I had. I felt like that was something that I couldn't let die because it would inform the rest of my life. And so, you know, I know that not everybody has freedom, and we think of freedom, well, you know, what is that? It's easy to say, well, I don't have time. But I think it's what we put our mind and heart to, I think.
I was involved in a TEDx recently, and one of the talks was all about time. In fact, there were a couple about time. And about reframing time and really thinking about, yes, you've got your to-do list that's so long, and tomorrow your to-do list is still going to be there, but there's things like self-care, there's things like family time, there's things like creative release. And if that is a non-negotiable for you, or if you choose it to be a non-negotiable to you, you carve out that time regardless. Because this is our life. We choose how we accept to live it. I mean, not everybody has that freedom, and I appreciate that, but for those of us that can.
Absolutely. And life is so short. It is fleeting. Yeah. And I think the older we get, you know, with each decade, you realize how fleeting it is. You know, and I hear my mom in my ear. She would have been 100 this past March. And she says, you know, I look at you girls and I see you and you're vivacious and you're full of joy and story. And she said, and that's how I feel inside still to this day. And yet she was in her 90s. And it's only when I look at the mirror that I realize that I am at the end of my life.
But she still had the spirit within her that felt as alive.
Yes.
My grandfather, he passed away last summer, but he was like that. He was so spirited, just such a joyful being. And he loved everybody. Like he would be talking to strangers for 10 minutes and feel like he really knew them and would be telling their stories for years to come as though they were his best friends. Yeah, hugely spirited.
They're a gift.
Yes, he was a gift. He was.
Yeah.
Something that I always think of you, Kim, when I see you, you just have a real glow, or you just elude happiness. And, you know, I'm sure you have your down days like anyone else, but are there any rituals that you have for yourself to help you to get into this way of being?
I think it's more of a way of life. And I think I have to credit that with my mom. We were very poor growing up. We never knew it though. We were rich with story, and our favorite thing to do was to sit around the table and drink pots of tea, and my mom would read our tea leaves and we'd tell stories and we'd sing. I carry that light within me, and it's like my sisters are my best friends. And I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we love to laugh. And so, you know, we're always looking at the funny side of life, or we just love to fall into that space of just pure joy. I don't know. I think it's not a ritual, I don't think. I love people. I absolutely love people. I love hearing their story. I love talking to perfect strangers. Perfect strangers having these serendipitous moments will light up my life. So I think it has a lot to do with other people as well. They light me up. And if I can come across someone who's like a grumpy old soul and we get a laugh or a chuckle or even tell a story, that feels pretty cool too.
Beautiful.
Perhaps that's my ritual.
Yeah, really feeding other people's happiness and energy. I know during lockdown, a lot of people suffered through just not having that personal connection, whether that was in the physical or the online. I think a lot of the small talk disappeared, and in the workplace, it was very much let's just get on with work, back-to-back meetings. So I think a lot has to be said for those serendipitous social interactions in our day. And actually I was thinking about this the other day, like thinking about how many of those you have, and then really look to see how that does affect your mood later in the day, whether you've had social interactions online, in person, and whether they are with people that you already know or if they're with complete strangers, and just listening to yourself to see how that does impact. And if it does positively impact, intentionally putting more of those into your into your schedule so that you know that you can have those positive lifts?
Absolutely. It's like just yesterday, my husband and I were walking in the woods near our house. There's some beautiful trails. And we had the dogs with us, and we came across this fellow who is, 6 feet tall, and we're like, 5'4", 5'5". And we started talking, and, first about our dogs, but then about each other's lives. And, my husband has suffered a traumatic brain injury. And it turns out this other fellow had suffered a traumatic injury at work as well. And we just had these 25 minutes where we stopped, total strangers, and we got to know each other and our stories. And it's simply because we stopped. It probably had something to do with also that we were in this beautiful forest, because nature has you going at a completely different pace. But it was just such a beautiful moment. And then we carried on our way 25 minutes later, and I turned to Rick and I said, "You have a new friend." But that's how it felt, it was just beautiful.
Beautiful. And just talking about nature then, and nature's healing, just reminded me a couple of things, actually. So I'm currently doing my master's at Royal Roads, and we had a guest lecturer a few months ago who is an eco-psychologist. And she took us out to the woodland around the university campus and invited us to see what called us, whether it was a tree or a stream, to see what spoke to us, and then to go and sit with it, meditate with it for 15 minutes. And this is something, 15 minutes in your normal everyday life doesn't feel like a very long amount of time, but standing with a tree for 15 minutes intense. And then we were to ask it, "Who are you?" and to feel like you're having a conversation. And then we were all to write down some words that came through for us. And when we returned to the classroom, we went around the room and each said some words. I wish it had been recorded. It was so profound. People were crying. And it was just like you were looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
It was a really deep chance for self-reflection. It was so beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful imagery.
Yeah. The other thing that came to me was yesterday, I had a bit of a down day yesterday, feeling a little bit grumpy. From time to time, this happens. So I got out on my bike, went to one of the trails, did a bike ride. On my way back, there was a walker in front who pulled to one side to let me pass. And he said, "Oh, did you see the bear just there? I've been in Canada for 20 months. I was like, put my bike down, and he pointed the bear out to me, which was incredible. So after leaving the house a little bit grumpy, I ended up coming home totally buzzing, having seen my very first bear in Canada. Yeah, so that was a total nature lift, a natural high from seeing wildlife that you certainly don't see back in the UK.
Now, most people jump back on their bike when they see a bear, so I applaud you.
It was already kind of sauntering away, so I didn't feel at any risk.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, a few years ago when I was facilitating workshops in the States, I often had the participants go off into the forest at the culmination of a workshop, 1 day or 2 day, and go in and spend a half an hour meditating in this space in nature and bring back a symbol from nature of where you are at this point in time, and then the story along with it. So that was also really beautiful too. Nature is such a healing balm.
And just thinking about that, so we kind of started off saying about the human interaction and how that really fills our cup and makes us feel happy, alive. And then we talked through nature. And I think the other thing that really I've found since coming here and being apart from all of my friends, all of my family, I've had a lot more time with myself, a real chance to get to know myself again. You kind of, well, I don't know if it's for everybody, but I certainly lost myself a little bit in motherhood. I lost my authentic voice. And I really feel like going back to university and coming here has helped me to find my voice again. And I'm now very conscious of having that time for self-reflection. So I carve out at least one evening a week that I'm off duty with the family. I have a bath. I put on the music that I love. I do some journaling, and I just have time for myself. And, you know, reflect on the week that passed, reflect on what I really want to achieve in the week to come. And ideas like me doing a podcast with my friend Kim will drop into me as I'm doing this personal self-care reflection process. I know you said it was a non-negotiable when you had young children, you'd still be writing into the evening. Like, is there that kind of reflection ritual that you've taken through your life to today?
Hot baths with candlelight. That was always there. Long walks in nature, and I'm an avid hiker and mountain climber, so nature is huge. I think one can do, you know, years worth of healing and therapy in the mountains. And as long as you leave it there. And so yeah, I think moving my body in any way I can, and I love dance as well. To me, that's it. It somehow shakes up all the cobwebs and loosens up all the stories, and I do my best thinking when I'm in nature as well. It's like that's where all the creative ideas emerge. You know, I might be working on a film or a story, and I'll go purposely into the mountains or to the beach, and it will come to me. And then I come home and I just write everything out, kind of do like a mind dump. So yeah, that's my ritual.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I feel like what I do now is really an outward expression of my spiritual path. And that's why it feels so effortless. It's like, this is what I have, you know, this is what I was meant to do. And all those things I tried and tested and dipped my foot in the water, there was a rhyme and a reason. And it's because of that what I do right now is so effortless, and it's so full of joy, creating soul stories for people. It's like I shared a film just the other day with someone, and they responded back and they said, I watched the video, and wow, it was like a human portrait meets video meets poetry. And to me, it was like, that's all I needed to hear. And it's like, that's how I feel when I'm sitting in front of someone filming them. It is pure poetry.
I love that, Kim. Thank you so much. I think we're going to leave it there. It feels like you've just told us what you do. It's this beautiful, heartfelt business. I will include a link to your website beneath this. Any final words that you would like to share? Bearing in mind the people that you will share this with, maybe there'll be, you know, the communities, maybe this women's circle that you were once a real part of. Maybe you'll want to share this with them. Maybe this will evoke a new gathering with some people that you haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I will be thinking deeply who I want to share it with. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I thank you so much for inviting me into your circle.
And I look forward to, we've got lots of exciting things coming up. Kim is one of a handful of people that is going to be in my first inner circle. We're going to have different gatherings and sharing of knowledge and support. So yeah, really excited. This is your stepping stone. So let it begin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Much love.
Thank you.